Rob Ponto,
Here.
Rich George,
Here.
Todd Bolia,
Yep.
Mark Farren,
Present.
and I'm Kevin Netto, and I'm here. So all board members are present and can be heard. Okay. Under amendments to the agenda, we have 3 listed on the agenda. Are there any other amendments besides what we have listed here? Nope. Okay. So the first order of business, since we've recently had our election, is to elect the chair and vice chair of the board. It's something we do. We're supposed to do after every time a new board member is elected. Well, I should say a new election is held. We didn't actually have new board members elected this time. So I will take nominations for the role of chair.
I'll nominate Kevin Netto as chair.
I'll second it.
Any other nominations? Really, it's okay if there are other nominations. Okay, all in favor of Kevin Netto continuing in the role of chair? We have to do this by a roll call vote. So if you're in favor of that motion, then say so when I call your name. Rob Ponto,
Yes.
Rich George,
Yes.
Todd Bollier,
Yes.
Mark Farren,
Yes.
and I won't vote. Okay, nominations for vice chair.
Nominate Rob Ponto.
I'll second it.
Any other nominations? Okay. If you're in favor of Rob being vice chair, say so when I call your name. Rob Ponto,
Yes.
Rich George,
Yes.
Todd Bollier,
Yes.
Mark Farren,
Yes.
and I'm a yes on that as well. Okay. Thank you all for that. CEO office schedule. This one is, I don't know if he reached out to others, but Bob Forrest, our code enforcement officer, reached out to me asking about the possibility of slightly changing his work schedule on Thursdays so that he would work regular, like 8:30 to 4:30 day instead of the, 10 to 6:30 or whatever the extended hours are. He says losing those hours in the morning kind of impacts contractors that he needs to meet with, and that he has historically very few people ever show up in those evening hours to talk to the code enforcement officer. So I told him I would bring it up to the board and see if there was any objection to that.
Yeah, he talked to me about it. It definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I didn't even realize that he was. I guess I did realize it, but yeah, it is a problem in Thursday mornings. Somebody wants to have an inspection, needs an inspection.
Right. Are there any objections? I think without objection, we'll let him know that it's fine for him to adjust his hours on Thursday to whatever he needs to do to get the job done. And then, so 2C on the agenda was, we had mentioned that it would be a good idea, and this was actually a request from the CIP committee, to have a selectman be a member of that committee. And Mark has agreed to go on that committee. Is there anybody else that had thought about it and was interested in doing it themselves other than Mark? No.
Oh, that's good.
So in order to make have him be a voting member on that committee, we should vote and actually appoint him. So I'm going to move that we appoint Mark Farren as a voting member of the Capital Improvement Program Committee.
I'll second. Or Rich held up too, but
Okay, well, we got Rob as a second. So if you're in favor of Mark joining that committee as a voting member, indicate when I call your name. Rob Ponto,
Yes.
Rich George,
Yes.
Todd Bollier,
Yes.
Mark Farren,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So great. Thank you, Mark, for stepping up to do that.
Thanks, Mark.
Yep.
Okay, we are at the public comment portion. This is the period of time in the meeting where any member of the public can address the board on any topic that they would like the board to hear about. So if you use the raise your hand function, we have a lot of people here tonight. Use the raise your function hand in the Zoom meeting. Or if you can't figure that out, turn your camera on and wave your hand or something so we can recognize you somehow.
I think David's here for public comment.
I was seeing, oh, there he is. Yep. Okay. Can we does he have to turn his own mic on or do we have to do that?
Sorry about that.
Oh, go ahead, David.
Hey, how's it going? My name's David Stevenson. I live at 176 Cushing Road in Durham, Maine. I'm also the owner of Hazy Hill Farm, a cannabis business here in Maine, and also High Peak Cannabis Company, which is an edible business. My business currently employs about 20 employees. And unlike a lot of businesses right now, we're actually doing really well. So, I would just really, I've come to you guys many times just asking to at least, have another vote on opting in. The state is going to be, has already opened the application process. I already have conditional licenses for a couple grows, and I'm looking to expand in Durham, where I own 150 acres. I'm looking at potentially working with a solar farm to bring green power to some greenhouses, because where I'm at, there's not a lot of infrastructure, but I'm looking to do green power for many reasons, social responsibility. It's great publicity and it's more efficient for my business. So again, I'm just kind of asking to at least, put it before the town. I think that there's a vote in September. Love to get it on the ballot. We voted on this once, it passed. And so I feel like I deserve, or, anyone that's in the cannabis industry in Durham should, have this vote out there. So yeah, that's basically it. Love to see that. I'm trying to bring more jobs to the community. Trying to build a local business where the money is not just a big corporate, goes to a big corporation out of state. It's all local. I've been doing this for 10 years personally. Yeah, that's about it.
David, which specific, because there could be up to 8 or 9 different opt-in questions, depending on whether it's medical or I don't know if they're still calling it recreational or adult use, whatever they're
Yep.
calling it. Which specific activities are you looking to have the town opt into?
I think most specifically cultivation, then processing, which kind of go hand in hand. And then, I think it's not really, Durham's not like an ideal retail location, but, if I did have this really cool farm and people wanted to come visit, it would be a cool place for them to, be able to buy, just like a lot of the breweries. So that was kind of my thinking. My main goal would be cultivation.
Yeah. When you say processing, is that the same as like manufacturing edibles and things of that
So
sort?
processing's a really broad term. I mean, processing could be just trimming the bud, but it could also be, a butane extraction lab. And there's really high standards for all that. It's not like you can just jump into that. there's some really strict regulations around that. But I'm not really into that. I kind of sub that part of it out. I do non-solvent extraction, so using ice and water to remove the trichromes and oils from the plant.
Would we need to opt in to manufacturing in order for you to do that in Durham, or would opting into cultivation cover that?
I think that you would need to opt in, but I think there may be a subcategory of non-solvent extraction. That was one of the licenses that I got through the state, a conditional license.
So even if we had to opt in, if the town voted yes, we want to opt into like manufacturing, our ordinance could specify non-solvent extraction.
Absolutely.
Only, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Any other questions from board members for David? So I think, David, we're going to be, because as you, I'm sure, are well aware, we had this teed up to vote on at town meeting, along with several other things, and then, COVID happened. And so one of the things we're talking about tonight is with regard to marijuana and a few other issues, how do we want to address those? Like, do we want to maybe try to have take advantage of the large voter turnout in November and have a ballot in November when people are voting, or wait until next April's town meeting and vote then? Or I think that's the discussion we're going to have tonight. So
Okay. And so the next one is November, not September.
well, there had been talk of maybe a September special town meeting, but the reality is that even to vote in November, we're still not going to be able to have a large group gathering in September. It's highly unlikely. So that kind of puts us on the referendum ballot again if we're going to do it this year. So November obviously makes sense then. And then when you start backing up the timing that you need in order to have absentee ballots available, I think it's like 60 days before the election or whatever it is. We actually have to decide by the end of this month whether we're going to put these questions on the November ballot or wait until sometime after that, presumably a spring town meeting. But
Couldn't voters vote online as opposed to coming in? Is that what we're worried about? Is people gathering at the voting booths and potentially spreading the virus?
yeah, there's no online voting capability. They could do absentee, and that's why we have to make the decision quickly so that there's adequate time available for absentee ballots.
Okay. And we have to vote on this, correct? Even though we voted on it once, it needs to be voted on again, or could you guys make that decision on your own?
No, that vote where it was clearly spelled out on that was not a binding vote. It was simply a straw poll to kind of see where the town was. And you're correct that that those questions did pass, but it was close. It was within a percentage point, so 50-50. So I think the way we've worded the questions this time is we want to ask the questions like, okay, do you want to opt in? And then if any of the questions are yes, then the way the question is worded, then we have a certain amount of time to actually go through the expense of getting ordinances written that will then come to the town for a vote. And that's kind of the way it works. And the towns have to opt in, and then you have to actually, if you want to have your own ordinances, you have to vote on those separately. So that's kind of the path we're taking here. We're asking the question up front: do people want to opt in? Because it's a pretty expensive proposition to go through the process of hiring a consultant and writing ordinances and doing the homework and go through all that and then have people say, well, no, we didn't really want to do that anyway. So, so we're going to ask the question first. If we get a yes, we will then move forward, budget money, and go through the process of developing our program and our regulations, whatever they're going to be, and then vote on those actual ordinances. So.
Okay. So in reality, if it passed in November, then you need to write up an ordinance and then need to vote on that again. So in reality, would I be looking at like another year before I'd be able to do anything, or?
I would say that's probably a safe bet, because then COVID is still a wild card here, because we don't really know when we'll be able to have like an actual town meeting again. So I think and this will be part of the discussion with board members later, because we'll probably have to change the wording of our questions. I think originally it said, because when we were going to vote on it at town meeting, it said, okay, if they opt in, then basically we have until the next town meeting to bring ordinances. But if we opt in November, it's probably not realistic that we could bring ordinances back to the town by early April at a town meeting. So I think then the discussion does, well, then I don't know, maybe we could get it done in time for the, in accordance with the June, there's usually a June vote, whether, like for school budgets or, some state referendums, or does it go to the next November or even the April town meeting after that? I mean, I think that's part of the discussion tonight.
I mean, if there's anything I can do, like if it does pass, like it does go to a vote and it does pass, I'm happy to help write that ordinance, or help, find people to do so, or whatever I can do to help with moving the process along and trying to get that sooner than a year or 18 months, because I've already been waiting year, 18 months, or longer. But yeah, so thanks for listening, and I hope we can work something out.
Okay, great. Thanks, David. I'm sure we'll be reaching out to you if one of those questions does in fact pass. So
Excellent. All right. Thanks, guys.
all right. Anybody else have public comment? Yep. I'm sorry. I go ahead, turn your microphone on. I see Nicoline Iacono.
Yeah, it's okay. Nicoline Iacono is my name.
Okay.
Everybody can hear me?
Yeah.
I live at 11 Rabbit Road, which is at the corner of the infamous intersection of Rabbit Road and 136. I lived here for 9 years now. I've been to a couple of town meetings pre-COVID area to talk about traffic and speed and my frustrations with it. But I suppose it's time for me to be a little bit more of a squeaky wheel around it. I have 2 kids. I've raised them here. They were both born in this house. I plan on sticking around, but the traffic and the speeding at that and the danger of that intersection has just gotten worse and worse since I've lived here. I've been the first responder at probably about 6, the first person on the scene at about 6 different accidents at this point. My kids have, a protocol, that they know that they have to sit on the porch and wait for me when I go out and call 911. I'm kept up at night a lot of the time because people peel out, and they just sit in the middle of that intersection and burn their tires. The speed limit on Rabbit Road is 35 miles an hour, and I guarantee that about 5% of the people that drive on that road are listening to that speed limit. And it's just, it's dangerous. I have a cat that was killed there, and I'm looking for solutions at this point, because it's gotten to the point where it's, causing me to think about moving, which is not something that I want to do. I love this town. My kids don't go to school here only because their dad lives in Yarmouth, and so they go to school down there. But I proposed a number of things, but I would love to, start a conversation and hear some feedback from you guys on what we can do. I know that 136 is regulated by the state, and so that presents some difficulties for sure. Some thoughts that I've had, is it feasible? Obviously a 4-way stop is one option. It's going to probably create more noise for me, but, maybe it's going to be safer. Does it make sense to put speed bumps on Rabbit Road and on Quaker Meeting House Road on either side of that intersection? Because, what happens is, and partially I think because the intersection is kind of nerve-wracking, is people just bomb through it, and then they just go. just yesterday I had, you know, 2 trucks, you know, one go through the intersection, the other one go through the intersection and pass the other one right in front of my house, which is only, you know, 100 feet away from the intersection. So yeah, I guess I'm here to start the conversation. And I really think that I know that there's a lot of frustrations in the town right now about speeding. And I heard that there was a change in the policing, and so I would love some clarification on that, just on enforcement. And yeah, that's about it.
Well, I can answer your last question first, the change in policing. That was not something that the town initiated. Basically, historically, Androscoggin County had an arrangement with the Maine State Police where they kind of alternated months for covering the town. And state police recently informed the Androscoggin County Sheriffs that they didn't want to renew that agreement. So now the Sheriff's Office has 12-month a year responsibility for the town for coverage of the town of Durham. So that was the change there. Leasing, obviously, I'm not going to have a lot of really good things to tell you right now, because enforcement would obviously be something we could would help. And one thing we have done is that we have secured a electronic speed sign. You may have seen it on Rabbit Road recently. Yep. Yep. And we're collecting a lot of data from that. In fact, our road commissioner is going to show us kind of like the first report on that tonight. And we can share that information with the Sheriff's Department, and it will give them some data on, you know, what rate of speed people are driving that road, and also like what time of day are people, you know, speeding the most and at the highest level. And that can help them prioritize their limited resources when they're trying to patrol.
Yeah, I called the Sheriff's Department, and their suggestion was that I get a game camera. So.
Yeah, that's not a bad, especially for the people doing donuts in the intersection.
Sure, I mean, it is, but it requires a financial investment on my part, and, you know, yeah, setting it up and keeping an eye on it. And I mean, yeah, I would prefer to not have to do that, though. Yeah. I mean, I think that data, I saw that and I was happy to see that. I think the data is going to be telling, I would hope. I mean, I think that you guys are collecting, and I appreciate that. You know, but I don't know if there's anything that the town specifically can do, you know, as far as, I mean, you know, I know speed bumps are a pain in the butt, but they're certainly effective. You know, I mean, is that a possibility, you know?
I don't know, Calvin, can you answer that? Is that even within our power to do that? I know, like, we can't really change the speed limit on Rabbit Road. That's a state function as well. But what about like speed bumps and or, you know, ruts or grooves, whatever, rumble strips?
Just turn it back into dirt.
It's actually more expensive than a paved road, believe it or not.
Yeah, I know. But certainly people drove a lot slower when there were potholes everywhere.
Yeah.
Calvin,
So, yeah, the MUTCD, the DOT, they frown on speed bumps. They only allow them in very densely populated areas, like in village centers, like Yarmouth or somewhere where there's like beach properties or something where there's a lot of population and businesses. They really would not want those in a rural road where they would be everywhere. Once we put one in, we'd have to put one on every road, and nobody would be able to really get anywhere. So that is not a method that DOT wants to use. And the four-way stop, we did look at that last year, and DOT did not want to do a four-way stop there because the numbers were, they said to do a four-way stop, you need somewhat similar numbers from each road. They need to be somewhat similar. You can't have one with 5,000 vehicles a day and the other one with only 800, you know, with only 800, which I think Rabbit Road is 857. So we're not interested in that. They were looking at putting some advanced warning signs, and they did put some advanced warning signs on 36 to help with that, but there was some talk about putting up a light, and then the COVID thing has hit, and I need to follow up with them because they've kind of dropped off. They said they were working on it, they'd get back to me. So I can check back with the traffic engineer and see if they've made any progress, because we did specifically look at that intersection.
I mean, now, obviously now there's a business right there too. And I think that presents a even greater risk for accidents, frankly, because you have, cars slowing down to pull into the farm stand, which is right across from my property. And I mean, frankly, I was in some ways in support of that business because of the fact that I was hoping it would maybe, positively affect that intersection and that it would encourage some sort of change in the structure of it. I know that there was a four-way stop on 125. I totally get that 136 is a highly trafficked road, and that's just, the reality of me living on that road. But yeah, I mean, it's also just, people not following the rules. You know what I mean? Like the speed limit of 35 is reasonable, but like that's not what's happening. And I just don't know what to do about that.
So I can follow up with DOT, see what their recommendations, see if they've made any progress on that intersection, and get that information back to you. If you want to give me a call or an email at the Public Works Department.
Okay. Yep, I will do that.
And like the rest of it is enforcement, and we're going to hand this data over to the Sheriff's Department and see if we can get them to, or at least we can, that'll be up to the select board, but see if we can get them to
and you guys said you're gonna talk about that data tonight?
Yeah.
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 All right.
Yeah, we won't be in any, great analytical detail. I think Calvin's just going to show us what the report looks like and what kind of data is in it. And then, and then we'll share it with the Sheriff's Department. But,
Yeah.
All right. Was that all, Nicolene?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to come back next month.
Yeah. I mean, I know, ultimately, as Calvin said, it's really about enforcement, and we have looked into how much would it cost if we had a dedicated sheriff's deputy in town. And the cost of that is somewhere around $300,000 a year for a car and a couple of full-time people to provide coverage.
Yep.
We asked for a fairly modest amount of money a couple of years ago, I think $1,500, to hire, that would have given us the option to hire special details a few times a year for speed enforcement, and the town voted it down.
Yeah.
But if people want to, generate a little grassroots energy around something like that, then, maybe the vote would go differently next time.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Is there anyone else here for the public comment portion of the meeting? Again, you can use the raise your hand function, or if that's not working for you, just turn the camera on and try to get our attention. Going once, going twice. Okay, public comment is closed, and we will move on with our agenda. 4A, under action and discussion items, request of no action letter for 759 Royalsboro Road. And Ruth, is this a different property than the one we talked about last meeting?
Yeah, the last one was Passbrook Road. This one's on Royalsboro Road.
Okay, that's what I thought. So this is another garage built too close to the setback?
Yes.
And how, I don't remember in what you sent us, how close is it?
I sent you, I did in a separate email send you the actual mortgage survey. Let me see if I can bring it up. Oh, come on. I think, no, sorry, having some technical problems. I think maybe it was Bob that sent it out.
Yes, it was, I believe.
I know I sent it to you guys. I think it was today, so it should be easy to find. Revised agenda.
Came out yesterday, Ruth. You sent it yesterday.
Thank you. That does help me.
It's close, Kevin. It's hard to tell because it's not to scale. I mean, it's
It's more like 10
Probably-
feet instead of 20.
Oh, I see it now. Yeah.
yeah, it's probably close to 10 versus 20. I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
It looks like the building's in. It's not just the garage.
Oh, it doesn't look like it's just the garage.
It looks like the whole property is out of
Docker, right?
right.
Okay. All right. Well, does anyone have any thoughts on this matter?
My only thoughts, do we have an idea of when the permit was pulled and when this garage was constructed?
2004.
2004.
Okay, so 16 years ago.
Yeah. Same as
I know this is our second one and we don't deal with these often. I just don't want to keep setting a precedent that every time a house is in the setbacks, we're going to waive it. But if it's 16 years old and this house, I mean, there's nothing really more they can do here anyways other than tear down this property. So I'd be in favor of the no action.
Me too.
Any other thoughts? Okay. So you want, Rich, you want to put that in the form of a motion?
Sure, I'd make a motion that we take no action on the property on, sorry, doesn't even give the address.
759.
759?
Royalsboro.
Yeah, I would, no action on 759 Royalsboro Road in Durham, Maine for setback violations.
I'll second it. Reluctantly.
All right. Any further discussion on that? The motion is we grant the no action letter and as drafted by Ruth, I assume. Rich, any objection to that? Because she's already has a draft.
Kevin, I have a question. I know I missed the last one when you guys discussed it, but I can actually speak personally to this because I dealt with the same thing when I bought my house. My garage was built too close to the setback, which is funny on a 5-acre lot, but I think they'd be able to fit it in there. But anyway, like, this seems fairly common, and is this you think this is a product of our previous codes officer? Or, I mean, in 2004, good survey equipment existed. Like, there's no excuse. Like, this isn't like we're talking about the 50s and you're out there just trying to figure out where it is. Like, we know where property lines are.
Right.
So how do we stop this from happening?
Well, I don't know what we can do about stuff that's already built, 15 plus years ago. But I think, Bob, now it's part of Bob's standard practice. He goes, when the foundation goes in, he goes out and he measures against the setbacks.
Okay.
That's kind of a point of emphasis for him when he's reviewing plans and to issue permits as well. So I feel pretty good about our situation now go forward. I don't feel good at all about what happened 15 years ago.
I know.
Yeah, but as I mentioned last week or whatever week we're on, it really isn't the code officer's responsibility to make sure houses are in setbacks. It's up to the builder and it's up to the homeowner that's building it. In fact, Bob really, he's more of a guide for them. He shouldn't be, because it could be a 5/8 inch differential. I've seen that before. In fact, I personally have done it. And you end up at a planning board or, an appeals meeting. So it's really not up to the code officer to make these decisions. I just don't want to set a precedent that anybody who gets within the setbacks automatically gets a waiver from the select board. Most towns, and I could be wrong on this, but most towns usually require some type of an appeals hearing before that is granted. So the neighbors can attest to what their feelings are and what happened and so forth, rather than just granting these. But I understand these old ones are tough.
And we have a variance process for that. Exactly.
Correct.
And I went
Correct.
through it and I was denied the variance and I paid $4,000 for 2,500 square feet. So my garage would meet the setbacks.
Or you had to buy a portion of a neighboring lot?
Yep.
Wow. Really?
Yep. But you know, I worked it out with my neighbor and we corrected the problem.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Just interesting.
This one seems really hard to correct from the, I mean, they got the house in there. It's not just a garage. I mean, it's basically non-conforming on all levels. Nobody checked it. It's shocking to me that somebody built this, and I don't know how old the existing house is. I mean, if that was built prior to, I mean, that's a pretty old home, I'm assuming.
That is very old.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe who knows what setbacks we had in play then. I certainly don't, but I just don't want to set the precedent that every time somebody's in the setbacks that the board is, you know, waiving something irregardless of. There should be some process that they have to go through to achieve this.
And, you know, I think we keep in mind that the no action letter, the way those work, and according to MMA Legal, is that it's not a forever binding document. It's like this board intends to take no action, but that doesn't necessarily bind a future board. Is that would you agree with that, Ruth, based on what you were told by MMA?
Yes, yeah. It's unlikely that a future board would do it, but
Right.
But they could.
But it's not as permanent of a solution as like what Rob did with his property. You know, it conceivably could be an issue again in the future.
I mean, typically these are done because they're mortgage surveys, because there's an interest involved, i.e. a bank.
Right.
So I have a hard time believing that they would just say, oh, that's okay, because if they end up owning this property in the future, they could be told that, hey, sorry, this building, that I've never heard of such a thing of that nature. Usually if a town takes action on something, it's filed and recorded in their deed.
Yeah, Ruth, do you want to speak to that?
Well, you can record a no action letter, and some of the no action letters are recorded. I went back, I don't know, 10, 15 years, and there is minutes that talk about having the people for the no action letter file it with the registry themselves.
Rich, that process that you were talking about going to get a waiver, I mean, is that something that we've done in the past for the town, or I guess maybe
I know newer construction in the town in the past have been in setbacks. The last one I can think of personally was on the corner of Cedar Pond and Route 9. And I think there was a small fine that they had to pay. It was just a simple, they went off the road versus the property pin, a very typical problem in the housing and building construction trades. But it's just, there's typically a process. It's not just someone magic, you know, in this case, you know, waving a magic wand. But I have a hard time believing that this isn't binding, that a bank would sign off on this. Because if they end up with that property and they go to resell it, they're going to do another mortgage survey and they're back to square one again if that's not the case.
Yeah. So.
But I'm fine. I'm certainly fine with this one. I want to be clear with that, because this home and this garage look like it's been a long time. More particularly the home. The home is really in violation. But I just, like I said, these have come up back-to-back meetings, and I just don't want to be the. I would think they'd go to the appeals board.
That's what I originally thought. It would go to the appeals board and get denied and go to us.
Correct. That's what should happen.
The process.
Right.
Well, maybe we clear this one up, and we should have a larger discussion about how we should handle these in the future.
Yeah, I agree. That's really my point behind this. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion on the motion that we issue the no action letter as drafted by Ruth for the property at 759 Royalsboro Road? Nope. If you're in favor of issuing the letter, please say so when I call your name. Rob Ponto.
No.
Rich George.
Yes.
Todd Bollier.
Yes.
Mark Farren.
yes.
And I am a yes as well. 4-1 vote. Okay. Next, 4B is the 2020 municipal valuation. Ruth, you want to put that on the screen, or what type of discussion did you want to have on that?
We already did that.
No, we did the
Oh,
mill.
we set the mill rate. That's right. Sorry.
So basically,
I was talking to myself.
right, go ahead.
So basically, it's just the valuation, and you guys need to sign it so we can send it up to the state. The ratio went down to the 87%. I don't know what else there really is in there that you guys would want to talk about particularly.
So do you need a motion, Ruth, for us to sign that, or?
Let's see. Yeah.
All right, I would move that the board sign the 2020 municipal valuation document prepared by the town assessor as presented.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All right, when I call your name, you know the routine. Rob Ponto,
Yes.
Rich George,
Yes.
Todd Boyer,
Yes.
Mark Farren,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. Okay, 4C, municipal ballot for November election. So we talked a little bit about this one during public comment. But basically, with questions we had teed up for town meeting with regard to town manager, ordinance changes, and the marijuana questions, we took those off the warrant to streamline things for the recent election. And now the question is, what do we do with them now? Is there an appetite? Ruth has worked out a timeline on what it would take to put these questions on the November ballot. And Ruth, I don't know if you want to put that timeline up for a talking point, but basically we would have to vote on final language of the questions at our meeting at the end of this month in order to meet all the deadlines for producing ballots, getting them coded, having absentee ballots ready, and in time for November election. So Ruth, do you want to take us through this along with the cost estimate?
Well, Becky's actually the one that picked up and did the timeline for us.
Okay, is she here?
I think she is. Becky, are you here? Going once, going twice?
I'm here.
Okay. Do you want to take them through it?
Sure. So the biggest thing is with ES&S, we have to give them the final draft 60 days before the election, which puts us at September 3rd in order to get it printed and coded in time so that the machines can count it and we're not hand counting it. So that's where it puts us with you guys deciding tonight if you want to do the ballot. We draft the warrant and ballot in the next 2 weeks. You vote on it on the 25th and we send it to ES&S for coding. So that way we have the absentee ballots 30 days before the election to issue.
Close.
And then there's some expense associated with that. Right?
Correct. So to do the basic black ballots, and let's see, trying to look at this with the wrong glasses on. We're looking at $1,675 for the ballots and the coding. If you wanted a color strip, which I don't think is really necessary, it's $1,850. The other piece of it that's not on there is securing a second DS200 machine. Now we were lucky enough to have another town bonus one, but they've already told us they won't be able to do that in November. We've reached out to the state. They have secured some more machines and we are on the list for wanting one, but I'm not going to know. I really don't know when they're going to let us know if we're going to have one. So there's the you know, the possibility that we would have to feed the ballots either the next day or on Thursday if we only end up with one machine, which puts us, you know, at quite a bit more expense as far as election workers and payroll there.
Mhm.
And Becky, how many questions can we have on that ballot? Is there a certain limit to the number of questions we can have on the ballot?
Nope, you can have as many as you want. I mean, we had what,
Nice space
22
ones.
on the one in July because it was two-sided. So, yeah, it's really about the print size. I mean, you can make the print smaller, but I wouldn't recommend that. But we had 22, if I remember correctly, for July. So,
Okay, thanks.
I don't think we need any more than that.
I hope not.
Okay. And so if we, so this is one option. And the other option is to, I guess, to be really cruel and make them count the ballots by hand.
wait, that thud was me falling off my couch. No.
Yeah, no, which I don't think is just for the record, I don't think is a serious option. Because we actually, coming out of the last presidential election, we had identified a significant bottleneck in our process in that we only had one voting machine, and that you know, we had plenty of booths and we could get people through to vote in a pretty timely manner, but it was the line to actually put your ballot in a machine that was the bottleneck. So COVID or not, we had talked about adding a second machine to the polling place this November. So hopefully that'll work out. So
I hope so.
So for board members, shooting for thoughts on putting these questions on a November ballot versus just waiting for our next regular town meeting next April. Any board members have thoughts on that?
I'd like to see things on the ballot. I mean, at this point, you know, COVID's doing great in Maine, but we're still not, you know, is it because of the regulations or what is it? And what's it going to be like in April? I don't think we have any idea. So I think we just got to bite the bullet and do it. That's my opinion.
Any other thoughts?
No, my only concern with the November ballot is that's typically a long night and a lot of work for folks. And as you mentioned, the process, even with this, I mean, the last election, I'm assuming this one's going to be quite the turnout also. We seem to be cause more delays by having people inside ballot boxes to answer 22 questions, whatever it may be. So that's really my only hesitation. Do I think eventually it needs to get done? Yes. I do think that the time constraint is a little tough. I mean, I think we could have looked at this last week and maybe maybe it deserves its own separate meeting to do it right. I don't know if we can get this done in a week and a half or 2 weeks. That's my only concern with it.
What do you think? So we have the questions. What do you think we need to work on, Rich?
Well, exactly what we're putting forth and how we're going to word them and so forth. I think we're going to have to just take some time on that. And I'm fine to do that. I don't mind having a separate meeting or anything of that nature. That was just my token. Exactly how many questions are we going to have? I'm not necessarily against it or for it to do it on November 3rd. Those are just some of the dilemmas that I personally see.
And Ruth, we don't actually have to decide that tonight, correct, Ruth? I mean, really, I think if we came out of this meeting and we're saying that, yeah, we're maybe leaning that way, or we want to strongly consider it, and you could send out the text of the questions from the last warrant, maybe with the marijuana ones adjusted, for the date issues we talked about earlier, and then we could discuss from there, because the first step is getting the questions going. But even after we do that, then we have to go into the whole, public hearing and public education process and getting information out there like that. But we don't have to do that before we decide whether we're going to put the question out there. Rich, did you have something?
I do. I do think I would only because I think we kind of owe it to the gentleman. He has been waiting for a long time. I wouldn't mind even if we just had the marijuana questions. I think that's about as big as a turnout we're going to get, and I think you'd get the true pulse of the town if we could get that on that ballot for that particular election time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that's true for all the questions that we might put on.
Yeah.
these.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously you're getting the most people, so it's absolutely true. I'm just, as far as the marijuana one, you know, I think the turnout for that, the more opinions, the better. I think a 200 person attending town meeting might not be a true reflection of what the town
Right.
sees, and people can be swayed in those meetings. So I think the ballot on the during that election time would be great if we could somehow manipulate that. Same thing could be said with the town manager one.
Yeah, how many questions did we leave off?
Well, there were, I think, 4 for the land use. There was 8 for the marijuana, and then the town manager question.
Yeah, so was that about a dozen, roughly a dozen questions?
A dozen.
About a dozen.
Yeah.
Are we under the gun on the land use questions? Is there a timeline for that?
There is a timeline. We would have to do a public hearing. I think it's 30 days before the vote. So part of the, I unshared it, but part of the scheduling was actually scheduling a public hearing as well. And we actually probably should check with George. I'm assuming that since everything was all set to go in April, that it's still all set to go. But I know that they have been doing more work on it.
Yeah, they've been doing some additional work, so there might actually be a couple of additional ordinance questions that weren't ready for last April, but would be ready for November. So I think there'd be a pretty heavy lift in terms of public education and public hearing on these things. But I think Ruth and the staff did a pretty good job putting together the mailer that we did on the warrant from the referendum town meeting. I can see something like that, and public hearings, and maybe a couple of PowerPoint presentations on the website to educate people and get the information out there. I think we have time to do that.
Kevin, I was more thinking like regulatory. Are there any obligations like for state things, or is this just town related with these with the new ordinances?
Well, yeah, technically the shoreland zoning ordinances are not in compliant with the state regulation. I mean, that's the one that's probably the most pressing in that, and it's not necessarily from a timeline standpoint, like the state requires it by such and such a date, but in terms of the uncertainty and the ambiguity that it brings into planning board and code enforcement decisions when we don't have a solid shoreland zoning ordinance on the books.
Okay.
But other stuff with regard to home-based businesses or roads or some of the other stuff they've been working on, there's no deadline or anything like that in play. Other than the sooner we get it done, the easier it makes it for people looking to do things in Durham and for the planning board and code enforcement officer to apply everything properly. So the sooner we get it done, the better for the process. So is there anybody that, any board members that are thinking that there's just no way they want to consider November and we should just go to next April, or would everybody be okay with having Ruth send out a document with the draft articles on it that we can all review, and if people are feeling the need, we can we can get together before August 25th, if we want to throw an extra meeting in there to purely talk about referendum question things. What are people's thoughts?
I think we should review it, put them on there if we, once we decide to do so, especially the marijuana ones.
Yeah.
It'd be a huge turnout.
Yeah. How about this? Hey, Ruth, do you think, would you be able to get the draft, basically the document with it out by the end of this week to the board members, and then board members, we could look and we could determine offline whether we think we need to have another meeting prior to the 25th to discuss, or if we feel like we're just okay to discuss and move forward at our meeting on the 25th.
So I'm on vacation after tonight. I could give you a really rough draft of just the questions that might be on the ballot, and then I can send George an email asking him to look at the draft from April and see if there's anything else that he wants on it or that he wants to change, and have him send it directly to you.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, you could just send us the draft from April.
Yeah.
And do what you just said with George and ask if there's any other issues that he thinks might be on there. And then you're back next Monday, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so then sometime early next week, if there were any other questions that George had, maybe we could have language on those.
Okay.
Does that sound reasonable to everybody? Reasonable approach?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So that's what we'll do. Action and discussion 4D, update to town office HVAC system. Ruth,
Yes.
what do you want to do with the HVAC?
So one of the biggest concerns among my peers in the business is the fact that we're coming up in winter, and we already have an enclosed air system. So we have a recirculating air system by our HVAC. And a lot of other towns and some businesses are talking about putting in an ionizer and or a UV light. And I had sent you the bid that got the winning bid in from, I think it was Westbrook? Wyndham or something, one of those.
Westbrook or Wyndham.
It was Wyndham, okay. And so there are several other towns that are looking into that. And I wanted to bring up the idea that the town might also, invest in a UV scrubber or ionizer scrubber in our system.
Okay. I'm not opposed to considering something like this, but I think I'm wondering if it's putting the cart before the horse a little bit, in that, I mean, I'm sure if you call up companies and say, hey, can you give me a bid on putting in an ionizer and a UV light? Sure, we'll give you a bid. But I think I'd almost, it seems like there ought to be some professional out there that would actually evaluate the system, who's not trying to sell us equipment, who would evaluate the system and say, yeah, this is what we would recommend you do to provide the level of protection that you're looking for. I think
Well, I did have somebody come and take a look. So our HVAC system needs some cleaning, and so a company came out and took a look at our system. There are two ducts that they would need to have the UV lights in, and I guess what I'm looking for is to see whether or not I should spend the time to pursue bids on this kind of a thing. Not necessarily a bid opening or anything like that, but just calling different companies in the area to see what they would charge for that, or whether this was not something that I should spend my time on.
I think you can take this document down, but board members want to chime in on their thoughts on this one?
First I've heard of it. I don't know much about it.
Yeah, I don't have thoughts either way, I guess. I think it's worth pursuing, I guess. I don't know what level of improvement it'll provide. I don't know if there's already a problem, but I don't have a problem looking into it and considering it.
Yeah, there's we actually have a resident in town who is a friend of mine that kind of works in this industry, and not in sales of any sort, but as like almost like she's like a safety protocol person and has been doing all types of work like this and is very familiar with, you know, various technologies. I'm going to reach out to her and say, hey, you know, there's a thought at town office that maybe we should do something with our air circulating system to, you know, help protect employees and the public, you know, during COVID, and just run this by her and see what she thinks. Because I'm not ready to just say, yeah, let's go buy stuff, because we don't even know. It could be hocus pocus for all we know. We just don't know whether this is the right thing to do or not. So that's why I say I think it's cart before the horse. I think the first step is it's definitely worth spending time on, like, okay, do we have an issue here? Is this a risk that we need to mitigate somehow? And if so, what's the best way to do that before we jump in and get bids on specific pieces of equipment?
I agree.
So I would say, don't worry about this one over your vacation, Ruth. Maybe put it on the agenda again for further discussion on the 25th. That will give me enough time to reach out to an expert that I know, and I may have them, if I think they'll be willing, but to reach out to you and have a conversation with you and discuss various options. Does that sound okay? I can't hear you, Ruth, if you said anything.
Oh, yes, that's fine.
Okay, all right. So it's not a no, it's just don't get any bids on equipment yet. So,
Okay.
right. Okay, and 4E, the Keep Maine Healthy Grant. This is the grant that you successfully applied for, a little over $9,000, I think, for COVID-related expenses. Is that right?
Yes. Yep.
Is this just an awareness thing, or do we have to vote on something?
So what I sent you guys is the actual contract, and they're looking for a signature on the contract. Rob probably knows more about this kind of stuff than I do for grants, but you would have to vote for me to sign it.
I move we authorize our town administrator to sign the contract for the Keep Maine Healthy Grant.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, if you're in favor, say so when I call your name. Rob Ponto,
Yes.
Rich George,
Yes.
Todd Bollier,
Oh, yes.
Mark Farren,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. Okay. 4F, COVID-19 sick policy, and Ruth has sent us a draft of that. We had basically, in the last meeting, we had asked her to put together something that was essentially based on CDC guidelines at the state and federal level, which is seems to be exactly what she did, which is great. The only question I had, Ruth, was there's a phrase in there where employees returning to work will be required to provide a doctor's note. I thought I've been reading places somewhere where they were saying that, well, you can't really require a doctor's note. I could be wrong on that, though.
I've heard both. I don't know. Yeah, I've seen it in different policies. I've heard also that you can't require a doctor's note. I've heard that COVID is different than the normal doctor's notes. I mean, you do get notes for people who are coming back to work after an injury, just to clear them that they can come back to work.
Okay.
On a work comp injury.
Yes.
Yeah, that's different because they're under your,
Although-
it's under your insurance.
Although we have had notes from employees of the town previously who have had procedures done and then come back to work, the notes from the doctors specifically saying that they are ready to come back to work. And then the other question that I had was the symptom-free part. I've heard, you know, how long you should be symptom-free before you can come back and fever-free. I've heard 24, I've heard 48, and I've heard 72 hours. And I went back and forth and I wasn't sure where to land. So I don't know if you guys have any input into that.
Where did you land? 24 hours?
24 hours in. I started with 72 and I went to 48. And I've gone back and forth between 24 and 48 for a while.
No.
We're at 72 at my place, but I don't know.
That's what I've heard is best. It's a long time.
Yeah.
What's the difference and go 48?
Sounds good to me.
Well, in his head, yes. So, yeah, I think 24 hours might be a little quick.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other comments on the policy? Okay. All right, so
As
go ahead.
part-
You got to say something, Ruth?
Yeah, as part of the policy too, the person who is experiencing the issue reports to their direct supervisor. So in the department head's case, you know, I would report to Mark, and the other department heads, I assume, would report to their liaisons.
Yeah, I think that would be fine. Everybody okay with that approach?
Yep.
Okay. All right, then I'm going to move that we adopt the Town of Durham COVID-19 return to work policy as presented, with the edit of symptomatic persons must be symptom-free for at least 48 hours, not 24 hours.
Second.
Rob seconds. Any further discussion on that one? All right, if you're in favor of adopting the policy as moved with the edit to 48 hours, symptom-free before return to work, please vote when I call your name. Rob Ponto,
Yes.
Rich George. Rich? Can't hear him.
Took his earphones up.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Rich. I don't know if you can.
Have him thumbs up or thumbs down.
All right, he's given the thumbs up. All right, Todd Boyer,
Yes.
and Mark Farren,
Yes.
and I am a yes. So, all right. So even without Rich's vote, we have 4 positive. So we're all set. Okay, so that's the policy. There's that. And for action discussion, 4G is Old Brunswick road speed. I think we all got a copy of a letter complaining about speed on this road. And we got a letter basically from the Sheriff's Department telling us that they got a letter complaining about the speed on the road and asking if we had, I think there was going to be some follow-up on the number of speed limit signs or something on that. Calvin, you want to speak to that?
So I went out, counted the signs. There are currently 3. That's never been an issue before. The road was repaved. Couldn't get to the speed limit anyway, but So there are currently 3, and I've marked out DigSafe for 4 additional signs in strategic places, and those will go in this week. And we set up the speed radar sign this week, so they should have, the Sheriff's Department should have adequate signage that they can feel comfortable enforcing the speed limit with, or they will, at least after we get the signs up this week.
Okay. Was there anything else on this agenda item? I think it was just an awareness thing as much as anything. Okay. All right, so moving on to department committee reports. 5A, the fire chief is first this week. Chief?
Well, my computer, can you hear me? My computer is very slow.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Very, very brief report. Once again, we continue to operate within the COVID-19 restrictions. We are going to, if people need to come to the station, we're going to allow them in to do the business they need to do, but ask that they do wear a mask when they're in the station. Just continuing to look at the budget and the call volume. We're now 36 calls ahead of where we were last year. We've had several multi-call days. The department's done well handling those. Had some public education issues that we've dealt with. A juvenile fire center issue, which Diana Dimmick handled very well with the fire marshal's office. And we're also working with the school system in regards to what we'll help them provide for education for Fire Prevention Week, given the fact that things are not going to be back to normal by the time the school year starts, whatever that looks like. Other than that, I have nothing else to report.
Okay. Any questions for the chief from board members? Nope.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
And Calvin, we are back to you for the road commissioner report.
So following up on your request from last meeting to look into the Japanese knotweed, bamboo, talk to the Maine Natural Areas Program, the new biologist, Nancy Olmsted, and we discussed some different options, and she gave me the place to look up the information on their website, and so I've attached it to my report. Those their link, as well as the UMaine cooperative extension. So it is Japanese knotweed and bamboo. They are one and the same, and a lot of towns are. There's a lot of people that are concerned about it in their towns. She said she was still trying to get her feet under her on this, but that I gave her what we did on the MPRP. She said it sounds like a very good practice for containing, mitigating the situation and keeping what we have in place. She was going on vacation, so she was back today. I haven't talked to her today, but in the meantime, I was able to talk to DOT. I did call the town of Brunswick, and they said they don't spray it. They said they just keep cutting it over and over again, and it keeps coming back. And so I did talk to DOT and Bob Mooseman, the vegetation management director for the state, and he said they put together a formula of herbicides, a mixture of 3, and he's been developing this over the last 40 years and feels that it is quite effective. Statewide, they do have to allow for an opt-out option for abutting landowners, and his comment to me was that only 1% in the entire state actually filed for the opt-out option. So I found that to be quite interesting. And he said they actually help landowners if they need to go back a little further, help them to mitigate it on their own property, that they will do that. So they won't do acres and acres, he said, but they'll go back a ways and help landowners. So the options, I sent an email earlier, are to continue what we're doing, or just, as you probably read, that one option, and another option is to aggressively cut several times a year and keep cutting and keep cutting. And over time, Nancy said it could take, probably 10 years or more for cutting it several times a year. So that would be quite an extensive manpower operation. The third option would be laying and maintaining a construction fabric over it, which means we'd have to dig into the ground and put the fabric over it and then maintain that and continue cutting as well. So, and the fourth option, spraying herbicides. So I guess with that, I do think that, we really should, I should go out and GPS locate all of the current locations and put that on a map so that we can see what the, how widespread the problem really is. And that would also help us to be able to monitor if it's spreading or not. If a new location pops up, then we know that that we need to, that we can tell if the problem is really taking off or holding the same. So I would recommend that. But other than that, I guess I did speak with the contractor. I did hear back from DOT today, actually, and they said we cannot piggyback their contract with the applicators because that's only for goods, not for services. So we would have to contract, if that was what the board chose to do, we'd have to contract with they're using Seabreeze Property Management, and did talk with them today, and they said they would basically have to do it by time and material. And once I give them the map, they would be able to give me an idea what that would cost. But that's only if you decide to go that route. So that's about all the information I have on that. So if you guys want to give me some direction.
Well, thank you. That's you did a lot of homework on that since we spoke last meeting, so I appreciate the effort you put into that. I agree that it makes sense to map it out and see what, what's the extent of the problem that we have, and then probably, we can digest a lot of the information you sent, and when you get that map done, let's put it back on the agenda again, and we can talk about if we need to make some kind of change to the plan, or if what we're doing now is fine.
So, yeah. Well, I think it would be helpful too. Once we get the map done, we will know who the abutting property owners are. Maybe we could send them some information about the problem and see if they want some. We could give them some guidance too. So.
Yeah.
But,
okay.
So that's what I got on that.
Great. Good work on that. Thank you.
So Ron's back from vacation, unfortunately, so I'm back to this job now. I worked with Crooker last week. We got Bowie Hill and Apple Ridge paved. The tropical storm hit last week. We were out till midnight clearing trees, and we were without power here at the shop for several days because the line went down out front. And I thought there was a chunk of asphalt out here where the fire had burned some land out here, and I thought there was a chunk of asphalt, but I didn't see any missing in the road, so I was a little confused. As I get up closer to it, it actually turned the gravel into glass, so it looks like asphalt, but there was so much power in that line that it turned the gravel into molten, just a big block of glass. So I didn't realize there was that much power, but I didn't know you could turn gravel into glass, but I guess you can. So we did go out, continue through the next day, got the roads all cleared and back, and then we had them open for morning commute, and worked with the fire department on some, and so the traffic report, I have that, and I sent that to you yesterday, and I can try to share that if I can remember how to do it. I think I hit this. Well, it says the host has prohibited sharing.
So, hold on, Kevin. Let me make you a co-host. Where am I?
Or
Can I not make you a co-host? Huh.
Or if somebody else wants to share it, if they have it.
Yeah, looks like that's what I'm gonna have to do.
Anybody else can either?
Kevin, do you have it up?
I do, but I'm not a co-host either.
Okay, hold on a second.
Well, if you have the report, you want me to wait and pull it up? Or let me just move forward with the paper version. You guys have it on your computer?
Yeah, Ruth, you don't have it, Ruth? Oh, there we go. Yeah.
So the pie shows the light blue is the vehicles that slowed once they saw the radar sign. So and if you look at the table on the next page, last column to your right shows the sign's effectiveness. So that represents all told 73.2% of the time the sign was effective in slowing traffic down. So that's when they see the sign, the radar unit is able to detect that traffic was moving faster and then slowed. So
what's the threshold? What's the definition of the threshold?
So I set the unit from 35 to 45 to display the speed. And then anything above that, and I still have some questions on some of the data here that I'm trying to get answers to, that I've got to call into the company now because DOT couldn't answer some of them. But I set the unit between 35 and 45. I set it at 10 miles over, and then I don't display any speed after that because I don't want to encourage people to see how high they can make it go. So, and then after that, it just flashes a white light at them and tells them they're really going way too fast. So it starts flashing strobes. So above the, and one of the questions I have for DOT is if you look at the graph down below, there are 4 colors, but yet on the legend here, there are only 3 colors. So I'm not sure why there's a yellow and an orange, and they don't know the answer to that. So, but that's the threshold that was set. So the yellow is going 35 or below, and I mean the green is 35 or below. We're going to the speed limit, and the yellow would be they were in the tolerance range of which typically police would give people up to 9 miles over the speed limit or so. And so the and if the sheriff's office disagrees with that, but that's been my experience is that they typically would give people up to 10 miles over. So that's what we set it at. The red are people that went over that threshold. So you see the biggest, the top graph there, bars are traffic count, more or less time of day with the volume of traffic. And the bottom one shows that like from 5 to 7 a.m. And that also reflects on the next table. If you look at 1900 hours, you'll see the biggest violators are, well, actually, no, it's at between 4 and 8, between 6 and 8 a.m. is when you, and that's what this graph here reflects, is when your biggest problem is people going to work. They're in no hurry to get home, but they're in a hurry to get to work. So that is that. So the second page gives you more data that, and the average, so you look, the average speed was 37.29 miles an hour. Now, of course, that's with the radar. I'm not going to say that if we didn't have the radar unit there, that number wouldn't be different.
Right.
So what people are experiencing out there, my objective in this first round was just to slow traffic down. And it wasn't to try to catch people or find out any other element. Right now, it was just to slow traffic down, and then we'll move to the other, trying to actually figure out, because I can set this up in different modes to figure out what traffic is actually doing when we are not collecting the data. So, but so this is with the sign pretty visible, and so this was collected over 15 days. The total traffic volume was 12,688 vehicles. The average daily volume was 845.9 vehicles. And I think 136 is like 3,000 or 4,000. So just for reference. Maximum speed was 65 miles an hour, and minimum speed was 20 miles an hour. And so I think that the sheriff's office could, use this data and go out at strategic times. This is our first report, and we've still got some more bugs to work out. There are other reports I could print, but this is the first one that they recommended I start with.
Great. Thank you.
That's what I've pulled together on that. So we did set it up on Old Brunswick Road. It is now on Old Brunswick Road, and there are some settings in the unit that I want to work on and make sure that are set sensitivity, because sometimes when I go by on 136, it looks like I see a number. I do see a number come up on the screen that shouldn't be there because there's no traffic going in that lane. So I'm not totally comfortable yet that we're getting the 100% accurate data. So I still got some bugs to work out there to be sure that I'm getting the right information. I'm not sure if it's picking up people coming the other way occasionally, or if they're somehow getting something coming off 136, but I've noticed a few times the number that the light is lighting up with the speed, and I'm not sure how that's happening, but we're going to work that out.
Okay.
So, I mean, if it's picking up a speed, I'm wondering if it's picking up a vehicle that really isn't there, or so then that would skew the data. So I'm going to continue to work on that before the next meeting so I can get that to the board. The private road signs, I sent this information to Bob before, and I know that the board has the option to. I think our ordinance gives the board authority to set fee schedules without having to go to vote. I think that's why it's usually left pretty wide open, that the select board has right to set fee schedules. That's usually the way it works. I think that's what I saw, but at any rate, this is the cost. It costs my department to put up a sign, and we seem to be doing quite a few of them. So when anybody shares a driveway, they need to have either a back lot or a private way, and they need a sign. And so I would like to see if I could get Bob to collect this, but we really would have no enforcement without there being some fee schedule set by the select board. Would be my thought.
Free? Has it been free up to this point?
Yeah.
Huh.
We had talked about collecting a fee, but without the board setting a fee, I don't know really. I'm not sure how that would work.
Yeah, I'm thinking we should table this one. I think we probably need to do a little digging on, what does the ordinance actually say? I'd want to see the actual language that puts it in the board's hands to set this fees, because most of the fees are actually set by the planning board. So I just want to confirm, like, if we want to do a fee, what's the actual process for doing that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then what do we do? I mean, there are many of them that we have to go out and replace because we have 4-wheel drive off from Runaround Pond Road. People seem to want that sign, or they have a sign that, so then we have to keep replacing them. And what do we do in that case? If they're on a private road, does the town pay for it, or do they pay for it? I don't know the.
Right.
On the one hand, we need it there for public safety purposes, and on the other hand, it's a private road, so. But it's in the town right away, so I guess that's something the board would have to consider.
Yeah. All right. Any questions for Calvin on his report? Okay, thank you, Calvin.
Thank you.
Back to the agenda here. All right. Next is 5C, Town Administrator Report. Ruth, you got anything left for us?
Let's see here. No, not much. Just the financial report. I sent out the budget through July. There's nothing really bad on it. We will be over budget for election, even without doing the ballot for the municipal by a couple $1,000s. So if we do the municipal budget, that means we'll probably be about $4,000, $5,000 over the budget that we have for the elections. And then as far as the excise tax, we're actually catching up to last year. We're only 9% below what was collected last year at the end of July. So we've made up quite a bit of ground since we are opening. And so hopefully we'll make up even more ground. Let's see, what else? We've been very busy with the tax collections, registrations. We are back to open our normal hours. We do have a couple of people that sometimes do call for appointments, and what we do during that time is we lock the door when they're in the office and keep everybody else out while we wait on that person. It's few and far between, but we will do that if anybody is a high-risk category and wants to call and do that with us. We can do that. And then that's about it, unless anybody has questions for me.
Nope. Any questions for? Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, on the consent agenda, I will take a motion on the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay, Todd, second. All right, if you're in favor of the consent agenda as presented, say so when I call your name. Rob Ponto,
Yes.
Rich George.
He's off right now.
He's off right now. Okay. Todd Boyer,
Yes.
Mark Farren,
Yes.
and I am a yes. So that's a 4-0 vote for our minutes taker, because we've lost Rich temporarily. Okay. Selectmen's comments, upcoming town meetings for the board, Tuesday, August 25th at 6:30, and Tuesday, September 8th, also at 6:30. Expect those will continue in this Zoom format. At this point, I'm going to move us into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA section 405-6A, discussion of personnel matters. If you are not part of this discussion or are not a board member, we would ask you to please leave the Zoom meeting. But I need a vote from board members to enter executive session. Rob Ponto,
Yes.
Rich George, was he still on here? Todd Boyer,
Yes.
Mark Farren,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So we are in executive session.
All right, give us a second to get everyone on
Yeah,
here.
can we give
We really need to
Rich a few minutes to get back?